13th Juror fam. Hello, hello. It feels like forever since I've seen y'all. What's it been, 12 minutes or so? We have, back by popular demand, Boom is in the house. Say hi, Boom.
What up? What up?
So I will go ahead and tell you that we pretty much all of the 13 jurors, we all agree that we're annoyed about the mistrial. We feel like we have put in too much time and effort for them to not come up with a verdict, and then we have to do it all over again. So we're still working through our feelings on that. But we're getting there. So, but I know we have a hearing on Friday, so we're gonna talk about some of the stuff today and get your insight on everything that you got to see and hear while we were stuck here crying that it was a mistrial.
Oh, don't feel bad.
It was rough. Now you were there while they were waiting for the verdict, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. How was that?
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Nerve-wracking is the best way to say it. And
how were the families during that?
I mean, as you can see in the tweets, basically the mom of Juvie's mom wasn't happy about it. So it really tested her. It really tested her faith. And Melly's mom afterwards, she posted that, she was taking it in stride, just taking it all in and just being thankful and grateful for everybody for their support. So, but yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. It was definitely unexpected, like especially like on a Saturday when nobody's there and none of that. So it's like I didn't plan on them coming to a verdict like that. I thought the judge would be like, all right, well, just take the weekend to deliberate and then figure it out on Monday. Or if we can't come to an agreement on Monday, then we'll just, mistrial, like he said.
Yeah. I was actually surprised that they did a mistrial after such a short deliberation time. That seems to me like, like not enough time. And I get it if, they're saying that each of the sides were stuck where they're going to be, but it just seems like such a short time to deliberate when it's, when it was such a long trial. And for us it was a little bit easier because we've had all of these weeks to talk about it, work through it. They haven't had that, so I'm surprised that they called it quits so soon.
I would think that they would, like, even with the Triple X trial, they had like the jury deliberate for like 5 days, and then some that has gone on like 2 weeks or whatever for deliberations before they came to a verdict. But I've never seen one. Obviously, this is my first one, so I guess I can't say I've never seen one. But this is the first time that I've seen a judge wait like mere hours to be like, okay, well, we'll just label it a mistrial right now. But I feel like that is detriment to him just wanting the trial to be over with himself. So
yeah. Now, one of the things that that we have talked about it on the stream. So I know that there's a 90-day period for, to go through the process of retrial. Now, obviously, we have the trial set right now for October for Portland. So I guess we'll find out more Friday. But what do you think is going to happen with that? Because they can't try them both at the same time. It's the same judge, same prosecutor. Do you think that they will?
I mean, they can try and he's Melly is, as far as the law is concerned, he's eligible for a speedy trial, obviously. So he has to hurry up and get his on the books within 90 days. Now, can they all go around the same time? Yeah, they can do that. Because who's to say that they do this trial the second time and it'll take like 2 weeks or something, or not as long as it did this time, I don't think, because it won't be no week-long breaks or holidays or anything like that getting in the way. I believe.
Yeah. I am thinking that they will probably do his trial and then push.
Well, you got to think about it. the trial was only 19 days. So that was literally like, if you did it concurrently, like it would literally be like a 3 or 2.5 week trial at that.
Yeah.
So
The
given that
jury
no
selection is,
holidays or anything, like no holidays, no national holidays, no none of that, then it would just go to course and it would just go every day. So
yeah, the jury selection is going to be, to go through that again. Ugh. Ugh. Ah. All right. Let's see. Let's get to some questions. Melly's mom said that it was 9 guilty. She said 9
guilty,
guilty and
3 not
3
guilty.
not guilty.
Actually, no, it was the other way around. She said 9 not guilty and 3 guilty.
Yeah, which I don't believe. But how? So let's
all right.
talk about
So
that. Go ahead.
everybody says that, but literally the judge read on the piece of paper that on both days that he said the jury said the question was, well, what happens if we can't come to a unanimous decision because we're split down the middle and nobody wants to budge? So literally that would mean it was 6-6. So everybody
Well,
just
not necessarily, because it could have been, even if whichever side doesn't want to budge, because it has to be unanimous. So even if it's just, one on each side that doesn't want to budge, then
well, that would, why would they say split down the middle then?
Well, but did it say split down the middle? I thought they just said that it was split on the sides.
He read the first day. He said they're split down the middle. That's what he was reading in the question. And then he said the next day. That's why he told him the next day, like, hey, or that day, like, hey, just deliberate tomorrow, and if you guys can't come to a decision, then we'll, go with the mistrial or whatever. So he read the Allen challenge to him on the first day, after they had went in there for like maybe 3 hours, not even 3 hours, and they were trying to say they couldn't come to an agreement. So, he said it was split down the middle. So I'm thinking when you say that, it's 6-6. It's not 9-3. It's not anything like that. So, but anyway, it goes. At the end of the day, it had to be unanimous. So the fact that one person wasn't going to budge would even affected the course of it. So,
yeah, and I know that he didn't at the end. He didn't poll the jury, so I don't take those numbers seriously with anything else either. Okay, so Kelly P says, has anyone spoken to has anyone on the jury spoken yet? I haven't seen anybody do any kind of
actually, no, they told him not to. Honestly, he told him, I think in the video, but in there, he told him after that to not really speak about the case. I think Judge Murphy told him not to really speak on the case afterwards. So,
because I know they're released to speak about it afterwards, but I also know that if I were them, I don't think I would want to. I wouldn't want my name or my image.
It's a document that made it to social media where one of the jurors was complaining about being released, and they said the reason why they wanted to be released and they didn't want to get embarrassed on live TV ever again and all that. So I guess when the judge was talking about one of the jurors, he mentioned them by name, and then he just said like something like or that made him feel embarrassed or whatever. So
yeah,
no, but no, I haven't heard anybody speaking on it. So
I hadn't seen it either, but I'm not surprised either, because if I was them, I wouldn't. All right, so I see. Look, you got some admirers in here. Trial Daddy's back in the house. Everybody's like excited about Trial Daddy here. Focus, ladies, focus. All right, let's see. So one of the things that people noticed was that there was a lot of facial expression when the jury would come in and out, especially like the last few days. There was a lot of facial expression with Melly looking at the jury. And I know that there were a couple clips that were floating around everywhere where they were, people were saying that it looked like he was like communicating with somebody, or like, raising his eyebrow to somebody as they were coming in. Did you notice that?
No, like he does that with but it didn't change from the first day to the last day. He literally, every time the jury walks in, he looks each one of them in their eye and watches them walk to their seat. So it's not anything different. He didn't look, maybe the person that probably he looked at like directly in their eye looked at him like, with an awkward look and they just raised the eyebrow. But other than that, nah, it wasn't anything.
Gotcha. Okay, so Chevelle says this was a nationwide trial. Where will they ever find another jury? Do you think they'll try to move it out of Broward?
Nah, they're gonna do. I mean, not this time. If it's a hung jury again, then they obviously it's up to the prosecution to retrial again, which they probably will, seeing that she is so adamant on getting them. But yeah, they can move it to a different district if they wanted to. Like if they could request that, but not to say they necessarily approve it or not. But yeah, it's possible.
Gotcha. Do you think that the all of the breaks and all of the sidebars and stuff, do you think that that had an effect on the jurors, because not being able to remember things and not having it fresh in their minds?
That's a good question. I never put that into perspective, but I wouldn't think so though, because they have a notebook, so they jotted everything down.
Yeah. Yeah, but I have spreadsheets, and there were things I forgot when we came back.
You could go back to your spreadsheet though. You could be like, hey, all right, even anything you missed, you could go back to your spreadsheet and
yeah.
figure
out. I did.
Like how they had like how they did it that day when they were deliberating, and when they said, hey, we want to hear the testimony of Trayvon Glass again, or we want to hear the testimony of Michael Kelly again, and then they rescinded the question to reread Michael Kelly's testimony. So I mean, it's possible anything they could have missed, they could have gladly reviewed over.
What do you think that they were asking to see or hear again for those? Anything that you have in mind?
I mean, for the Trayvon Glass part, it just made it seem like, okay, they believed his story, so they just wanted to hear more, or they just wanted to refresh on what he said exactly. But the Michael Kelly part, I was kind of confused on why they would want to hear his testimony again. So
yeah. What about the broken phone at the end?
Yeah, the broken phone part, they still couldn't get it like open or nothing like that. So it was kind of weird because that phone, even when they said that, I was like, I never remembered that phone being used or mentioned. Like I remember it being mentioned, but I never remembered it being used for evidence for anything. So
yeah. They postponed because Raven was fake sick.
Nah. I mean, that one day I don't know. I think she was really sick. Honestly, both of them were sick. The prosecutor and her were sick the same day. So I just think that that's what it was. But okay, even if that day was taken out too, like those 3 days that they took out too, that's still more days in the trial that, that in the next one that won't be in there. So it won't be as long. The trial won't be as long. So.
Gotcha. Jackie says, so Borland has a different lawyer. Yes, Borland has a different lawyer, and he's been there for some of the trial, hasn't he?
Fred Haddad. I don't know. He wasn't there.
Oh, yeah.
Nah, he wasn't there.
Okay. No. All right, let's see. They won't find a jury that hasn't heard about the trial. This is something that, like,
that's not true. They might, because think about it. The jury that was there, you guys got to think about the jury that was there was, to me, ideally looked between the ages of 35 and 50, who really didn't, like, you would have to be a real crime junkie or true crime junkie to really be invested into this trial. But like, I feel like the age range that watched the trial was between the ages of 15 to like 30, 35, maybe at the most. And I feel like people that they had in the jury compared to people that are watching the trial, it's going to be easy for them to find a jury. It's not going to be like some Young Thug stuff where they have 2,000 jurors that they went through already for selections and couldn't find one. So yeah, I think it'll be easier. I mean, not easier, but easy to find a jury.
Gotcha. All right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, I think a change of venue is a good idea. There's been talks about that. I think that, one of the things that people have mentioned a lot too is, worrying that there are, fans that are, lying about what they know to get on the jury, to
They could do that, but at the end of the day, it's still a unanimous decision. Like, so it wouldn't them getting on the jury and trying to be like, oh, he's not guilty, and just being a fan of him and whatnot would not help. It would just lead to another mistrial, and then the prosecution would start all over again. So
but that could help if that one fan is the only one who's,
well,
not
you gotta
guilty.
I found out recently that it was another man that was tried in Florida that had faced double murder. They retried him 5 times, and then they still found him guilty at the end, but he went to trial 5 times. So I don't think another thing that they could do to Melly is they could pretty much starve him out financially. They could just keep with the whole mistrials thing. They could just keep trying him until he runs out of money to afford the lawyers that he has, and then he has to get lesser professional lawyers, or not lesser, but like different types of lawyers. He can't afford the ones he got after a while, after the money runs out. So they'll be easier to get a guilty verdict if that's what they're seeking the whole time.
Yeah. Okay, so they brought up Cortland Sullivan, who isn't even a real person. So
Courtney Southern.
Really?
Courtney Sutherland is a real person. That's what they said. They said Courtney Sutherland, but they meant Cortland Henry.
But didn't they ask for the testimony, and Cortland didn't testify?
Yeah, he never testified. But I think that's when they were like, oh no, we meant Cortland Henry. But I think they were talking about his statement at the hospital. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah. Well, see, and that's what I figured. But at the same time, it's like when they ask for that and that's what you hear, then you're like,
furthermore proof that they was trying to get up out of there.
Yeah. I was like, were y'all really paying attention? Or Patchy says, do you have the number spent in trial, how many sidebars and all that? Is Marie in here? Marie has all of that. She has. Have you seen these numbers? One of our members kept up with it. If she's in here, we'll show it. She'll show it. But if not, then I'll have to get it. It was insane how many hours were spent, like in
hours, or how many sidebars are. I mean, I don't feel like recesses count though. They just those count, but I don't think those count compared to like sidebars.
Well, a lot of the recesses were like while they had to do other things or like look at other things or whatever, but just the totality of all of the things. Like the trial that we're doing now, we're on like the 742nd witness, and it's only day 2. It's so efficient I mean, obviously I rounded up, but it's so efficient compared to the way that this one was, and the insane amount of sidebars and time away from everything. It was just it was crazy. Let's see. Lisa wants to know, will Boom be in the courtroom for the future Melly trial, or has he had a gutful?
Nah, I'll be there for him and Borland, honestly. After talking to Borland a couple of times, I was like, it's only fair that you cover his trial too. Like, even though I know people aren't going to stream or go into be that invested in his trial, I guess, compared to if Melly is found guilty or not beforehand. But nah, I'm gonna see it through.
Yeah, I am mainly curious to see Bortland's trial because there will be a lot of the stuff we will have already heard, but there will be a lot of things too that haven't come out yet that I think will possibly paint more of a picture of
Well, exactly. I think Borland's trial would be more interesting because after watching Melly's trial, everybody saw that the defense went in and pretty much threw all the blame on him. So I feel like when the prosecution goes into, because the same prosecutor is going to try Borland too, I feel like when she goes in on Borland, it's going to be like, well, this was said, this was said, this was said. And then even in her opening testimony, or in her opening argument and closing argument, she can bring up what David Howard said about Borland, or what Melly's defense said about Borland, saying like he was the one that really did it. He was the real mastermind behind all this and whatnot. So, and on top of that, they caught him. He's the one that initially got caught lying about the drive-by. So I feel like it's going to be way harder for him to be able to get out of that, especially with the lawyer that he has. I don't know if he's going to have the same type of team like Melly has, but he definitely, because he ain't gonna have a label behind him backing him financially. He ain't gonna have he's really gonna have to get it out the mud by himself and really, you know, get or be in or have faith with Fred Haddad representing him to really get a not guilty verdict.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Do you think that the drop in Melly's streaming numbers last week is related to the trial?
Yeah, it could be. It could
Maybe
be.
with it being over, not as much attention on it.
Nah, it was the week before it was even over, his streaming numbers had dropped. But I feel like when the trial picks back up again, then they'll go back up again because it'll be more media attention on him getting retried and stuff. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Let's see. Have either of heard Bortland's son? He dropped with Melly little brother.
Nah.
Song? Maybe.
Nah, I ain't heard it. I didn't even know Bortland had kids.
Is that supposed to say song? Maybe song he dropped with Melly's little brother after the trial started, because he did do a song with Melly's little brother.
Oh, okay. So that I don't think that's Bortland's son though. You're talking about the Case Closed song that Melly's little brother is featured on, but I don't think that's Bortland's son though. I think that's just another artist. I don't think that's Bortland's son.
Boom. Do you think Melly is innocent or guilty?
At the end of it all, I think he has something to do with it. Now, the fact that, like I said, he could shoot a person in a room full of people with everybody with their camera phones out. And at the end of the day, when he goes to trial, if his defense is strong enough to prove beyond or be able to prove that there is no proof beyond reasonable doubt that he did it, based on their presentation, then that's all that matters. Innocent or guilty, it doesn't matter at that point. I mean, it all depends on what the jury decides at that point, not anything else. Not anybody else's personal opinion at that too. Whoa. Got it.
Yeah.
It was
stats on Melly. Sidebars 121, objections 353, time wasted 79 hours and 18 minutes per our statistician Marie Moss. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Crazy, yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, Melly's little brother is in it with Bortland, little slimy dude. That was what he was.
Oh, it's the little brother. Yeah, it's the little brother that they talking about. Yeah, okay. B slime, not slimy dude. That's fucked up.
All right. Let's see. What else? He's done. Oh yeah, song. It was supposed to be song. He's
I don't know that. I wasn't there.
I can prove it.
I mean, how? You know what? Did y'all listen to the podcast, the infamous podcast, where they went and reenacted everything that Bortland said, and everything that Moretti said happened? Like they went through and reenacted verbatim, like what Bortland said happened and what Detective Moretti said happened.
Yeah, but see, that's my thing. I don't rely on what people say. The reason that I have my mind made up is because I don't trust what anybody says. I went on the data because data doesn't lie. Right. And so and what we've seen, in every trial that there ever was ever, people lie, but data doesn't lie. So what I looked at is he had his phone in his hand when he left the studio and we saw him get in the back seat. We see the phones traveling, and as much as they wanted to try to say, oh, it's not accurate, it was substantiated by all of the video. So you can say, oh, cell phone stuff isn't accurate, but we know that it was because that's literally how they checked to make sure it was all accurate. We see his phone go to the scene. We see his phone come back out from the scene, and we see him down the road 5 minutes after they arrive at the hospital, looking for somebody, trying to get Fredo to come get him, calling track, dropping his pin location. If the defense's story were true, that would mean that, okay, let's pretend like it makes sense that they all needed to stop for him to pee. So they all, went and pottied together. Let's pretend like that makes sense. And then he was like, you know what? Instead of getting back in this car where I have plenty of room, I'm just going to jump in this one so we can all be crowded and ride back together to the same place. Let's pretend like that makes sense. And he left his phone. Okay. First of all, the data doesn't even show that they stopped. Second of all, if they did stop, then somebody else would have had to have gotten in that seat, right? Because we know that the shots came from there. And let's say Melly's phone rode with them, there it happened. They rode back out and Melly's home in bed. How did Melly get back to the middle of nowhere 5 minutes after they pulled into the hospital and he's out there FaceTiming, which is part of the testimony? So to me, I don't believe anything anybody said, but I believe the data, and there's not any reasonable doubt. Has to be reasonable. So I don't see any reasonable explanation. Y'all attack me if you want to, but I like the facts. I like the facts.
Man. Well, that's true. But like you saw in this case at the very end, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And they should have used all that you just said in their closing argument, and they didn't.
Agreed.
Both the prosecution and the defense should have used all that in their closing argument, and they didn't.
Yeah, agreed. I think that I think that's one of the things that was so frustrating, because there were I spent obviously a lot of time going over like the facts of it, and seeing it all laid out is one thing, but then trying to watch them lay it out is another. And that part was frustrating. All right, let's see. Yeah, people lie, facts and data don't lie. That's my favorite. I need that on a t-shirt. All right, let's see. More questions. That's about something else. All right, let's see. Borland dropped the song I want you guys to listen to. Dropped only 2 days after trial started.
Yeah.
I still believe who did this will come for Melly when he is freed, if he ever is.
Oh man. They've been Track and Borland both have been using Melly's like streaming outlets to promote their music throughout the whole trial. So even Track dropped a whole album on Melly's YouTube channel that has like I think 5 million people on it, or 8 million, I think. And they dropped it on Melly's YouTube account so it could pick up, stream, and so all the subscribers could see it and stuff. So
gotcha. Based on the numbers that you just saw, our numbers about all the sidebars and stuff, do you think the judge controlled his courtroom effectively, gave consideration to the jury's time, or do you think the case was a Melly circus?
At first, it was a Melly circus. Honestly, it was. And as far as the judge getting control of the courtroom, I believe he did have control, and I think he did let it slip off the rails a couple times. But I mean, what can you do when the defense and prosecution are always yelling objection? Like, even if you like, he told him eventually after a while, like, hey, chill on that. Like, I said what I said. Like, overruled. If I say overruled or sustained, then don't ask me anymore. Don't try and just keep going with these objections and whatnot. But I think after a while, after he kind of got a feel for both the prosecutor and the defense, he knew what to do in that situation. So to regain control. So, but by the end of I want to say a week 2, he had complete control. He was like, look, I'm not playing this with y'all no more. We're going to get through this trial. We're going to get through this. You're going to say your stuff, and you're going to be allowed to talk, and then you're going to be allowed to talk. And I don't want to hear anything else after that. So
he was like a mad dad toward where he was having to, get on to them. Like, you go to your room, we'll try again tomorrow. That was funny. You could tell he was over it.
Yep.
Let's see what. Oh yes, what about Jamie and the trash?
Everybody asked that, but the defense never said anything about that, and the prosecution never said anything about that, which is what I'm going. Which goes back to my point. Like, yo, it's not about people thinking if he's guilty or not at this point. Like anybody, no matter what happens, if he's not found not guilty, if he's found guilty, at the end of the day, everybody's gonna have their own opinion. Like, oh, he got found not guilty, but he's still guilty because he the one that was in that seat. He the one got in the car. Blase, blase. Or Jamie King went and got the cat or got the trash for what? Why would she go get the trash? And why would she take out the trash? Or that shows right there that they were trying to hide evidence because they took it out the trash and left. And but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, that's what we have trials for. That's what the court system is for. Like, okay, we can show on video that he did this on video. And in a trial, if they can't prove beyond reasonable doubt and the jury decides to go not guilty, then you got to live with the choices that the jury made. That's why it's called a jury of your peers. So.
Well, that brings us to the next question. How is it fair if evidence is allowed to be left out? Look, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, if I was on that jury and I heard those closing arguments where Stu was up there saying, look at Felicia Holmes, you have to think about Felicia Holmes, and then I got out and found out the truth about what happened with Felicia Holmes, I'd be pissed. So, like, it's hard, I think, sometimes to some stuff we've talked about this on stream before, I think absolutely needs to be left out. Like anything with him, showing guns, any of his lyrics, any of that, because that is more prejudicial. But when it's actual evidence, that is a hard pill to swallow to know that the jury's not getting to know the whole truth. They're not getting to know all of the evidence.
Correct.
Makes it not fair. Makes it seem really not fair.
There was a lot of evidence that was found inadmissible that you saw.
Yeah. Well, and there were a lot of witnesses that, the original things that they said. Because, when I put the whole timeline together, like Felicia, for example, she's the one who reached out to police. Police weren't coming for her. She reached out to police and said she was scared for Mariah's life. And when I put it in the timeline, I'm like, okay, well, that checks out because that's the day after that fight between them on Snapchat.
I think Mariah Hamilton is definitely going to be subpoenaed in the second one. I mean, she was subpoenaed this time, like she was supposed to testify, but they just didn't do it. But I think in this next trial, like the prosecution is going to make sure she testifies, especially with her being the ex-girlfriend. They know, like, all right, bet we finna put her on the stand for sure. Like she the ex now. She's not gonna really be too willing to defend him or something like that, I guess.
Yeah. This is something that I heard a lot too on the stream. A lot of people felt like the attorneys did not do a good enough job humanizing the victims. Like there wasn't a lot of talk about the victims or who they were as people, or really, like making the jury more aware of, them as individuals. What do you?
Sympathetic.
Yeah.
That's what they should have did when they had Juvie's mom on the stand. Instead of just having her point out Melly and stuff, they should have had her. They could have did a testimony where they like asked her about her son, like what was his upbringing like, how was he, like what kind. Describe the type of characteristics of your son, or describe the personality of your son. Now the defense could have been like objection, like she's trying to, win over the jury with sympathy or whatever. But I mean, the fact that they can still hear like, oh, this was like he was a boy destined to go to college, or he was like how they said at the end, like how she said in the closing arguments, like both Juvie and Sack Chaser had dreams of being like successful or superstar artists, but they dreams were snatched from them because Melly killed them and stuff like that. That was a little too late to try and say stuff like that. Like, okay, now I know as a juror, I would be like, now I know you're just saying that because you're in the closing argument, you're saying anything and everything to win. So, but
yeah. All right, let's talk civil suit. Will the families win? Will facts brought into trial have an effect on civil suit?
Now that goes back to something like how OJ beat his murder trial, but he lost his civil suit, or other celebrities that have beaten their cases and had in regular court and had to pay up in civil court and whatnot. So, but I think as long as this trial is going on, the civil suit won't really be determined until afterwards, because then they could
Yeah.
use the trial to be like, oh well, he was found innocent during the trial by a jury, so no, he shouldn't have to pay anything, he's not responsible. And the fact that Juvie and Sack Chase's family is trying to get $500 million, yeah, it's gonna take a while for this civil suit for sure.
Yeah. But I think, like my opinion on the civil suit, I think they're hands down going to win. I mean, because the burden of proof is so much less. It doesn't have to be beyond a reasonable doubt. It has to be, it is more likely than not that he did it. And I mean, that's obvious. So like, it's one thing to have to try to poke holes into it, but it's another thing to look at it and, from that different perspective of, of how much proof you have to have or how likely it is or whatever. So I think they'll win. Now, will they get $500 million? No, but I think that they'll work that out. Yeah. Let's see. Some of y'all just say shit just to say shit. All right, let's see. How is it put in evidence? How is what put in evidence? I don't, Wilma, what you mean? How is it put in evidence? How is what put in? What happened to the snake? What happened to the snake? I've tried everything. I cannot find anything about the dang snake.
So many unanswered questions. What happened to the snake? I don't know. We never got that answer. Even when they asked Felicia Holmes, like, so what happened to the snake? I don't know. We can ask. We're gonna have to figure that one out.
I want to know what happened to the snake. Right. I have tried to find obscure. I've been on Reddit. I've been, on Twitter. I've been on like pretty much everything except for MySpace. But I cannot find anything about what happened to the dang snake. But it has to be something because she was asking it, in a way. Oh, if y'all know what happened to the snake, hit me up. I'm still trying to find it out. All right, let's see what else. On the retrial, all of the evidence not allowed because the prosecution missed the deadline to give it to the defense will come in the next one. Yeah, this is one of the things that one of the attorneys was explaining that we had talked to, that they have like some of the things that, they didn't get entered in this time. Like when they talked about the second cell phone report and stuff like that, that they'll be entering this stuff in.
The prosecution is going to go way harder on Melly when they have the retrial. And the only thing bad about that is that there's no element of surprise now anymore. Like the defense knows like what they're going to try and bring, or what they might try and analyze what different tactic they're going to take as far as presentation, and just testimony, but they know like pretty much what they're going to try and bring to the table to prove him. So they're going to have the defense is going to have a way better case too.
Yeah. Are they though? You think the defense have a better case?
The defense might try and stick to the same game plan that they had in the first one and be like, and just fine tune it a little bit, just try and take out a little bit of the fluff that they had, and they might not have so much of the theatrics this time around. I'm guessing.
Do you think that they'll bring AD back and put him on the stand again?
Yeah, they could, but he's the only one that was. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that would be, I would have more than one witness on my when it's my turn in the retrial.
I think that it would be ridiculous for them to put him back on the stand because they proved that he lied about the some of this stuff. He's not like that. I mean, they're better defense attorneys than I am. I didn't go to law school, but I but I have common sense, and I wouldn't put somebody who they can prove is lying on the stand as their only witness. As their,
Right.
I feel like, you know, they would have done better to not have a witness at all, as opposed to, you know, and just stick with the, you know, the reasonable doubt, than to have his story that was didn't make any sense on there.
Correct.
Let's see what else. Do you think a lot of what does that say? Do you think a lot of people are after to testimony as of having Tori? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I can't. That might be a typo. Let's see.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you think Bortland's trial will be first and then Melly's?
Well, his trial is already set for October 2nd, so yeah. I don't know. It depends on Friday. You find out on Friday how, because I mean, she was immediately trying to put something on the books like that day, so or during after the verdict. So I'm pretty sure when they go in there on Friday, she's gonna be like, "Look, I'm trying to make this as soon as possible because this would be ideally her biggest case and her most high-profile case. So everybody will be talking and everybody will be paying attention to her as a prosecutor." So,
what about? So we saw Track. Now, when you and I talked, you said that he had sat on the closing argument say that he had sat on the victim's side the first half of the day, but see, we didn't see him until the second half because then the camera showed him when he was on.
no, I watched it back. He was in there. He was he walks in like I forget like right when they doing like I think the first question or whatever, he walks in and he literally or not work walks in on the first, but the closing argument, he right before that, it's Sack Chaser's mom walks in and then Track walks in right behind her. And then he sits in the victim side. But then I think after lunch, then he figured out how to sit on the other side. So and I don't think other than I think Juvie and Sack Chaser's mom or whatnot, or I don't think anybody really knew it was him. So
see, and maybe we were talking or something during the stream, but going over stuff, but we completely missed him when he came in the first time. We didn't see him until they zoomed in on him
yeah.
for the second time. So
and then y'all didn't know it was him until after in the interview, really. So
well, I was looking, well, no, because I texted you and I was like, as soon as they did the close up, I was like, wait a minute, and we're looking and like I'm like looking at my screen like this, and so we were talking about it in chat, and because it was hard to see him, and then they started zooming in on him, and but then yeah, I saw that the after court was over, I saw the interview he did in the hallway. Oh, Track. Oh, bless his heart.
He said he only showed up that day because he knew if he showed up any other day in court that they were going to try and subpoena him to testify. But they were literally talking about him the whole trial, and then literally talking about how they threatened to like do something or deport him if he didn't cooperate. So that kind of conflicted with his story a little bit. So
all right. Let's see. Hopefully on the next trial, defense will admit it's his phone so that we don't have to watch over 500 pictures. Was that your favorite part of the trial? Watching the
that might have to that might happen again, I'm sure, but because there's so many pictures that they didn't show that they were like, yo, we got so many pictures to prove that this is his phone. So they might, change it up on the retrial, but yeah, you know what? That part did help out a lot because I knew all the artists. Like, a lot of people that was in there didn't know like a lot of the artists in there, unless they were like superstar artists. But me knowing like artists on a lower level and just throughout hip hop, I knew all those people. So it came in handy when it came to putting content together to be like, oh, they talked about this person, or they talked about like 18 different people today that are other rappers today and whatnot. So
yeah. Do you think the defense will be pushing for bond until the next trial?
They will try and request it on Friday. Will they get it? Is highly unlikely, but we'll figure it out on Friday.
They'll definitely try. But yeah, I agree. I don't see it happening, but they'll try. Let's see what else. I'm not reading that one. Y'all be nice. Let's see. We have to. It's funny because the chat is kind of was very split in the beginning, but we have a lot of people who are frustrated that that it turned into a circus instead of justice. But y'all be nice. I'm not reading the stuff about and that's one thing too that I do feel bad that I can't even imagine as a mom having to go through all of this again, not even just for Bortland's trial, but now having to go through everything with Melly's again. Like, I feel so bad for them. Let's see. Oh yeah, this judge had them cut it down to 500.
Yeah.
I think I'm missing part of some of people's questions, or either it's like spell check stuff that I can't, that I don't understand some of these. I'm trying to understand y'all's questions, but y'all check what you're spelling and stuff before you send them to. Let's see. Friends and some family are talking a little about having people out front to bring more awareness for the lives of juvie and SAC to humanize them. One thing too that they normally have in trials is they'll have the proof of life witness. So it's like you were saying, like how they have testimony about who they were as people. And I was disappointed that they didn't have
in the hallway, or even in the gallery, in the hallway or whatnot. They had like people wearing shirts that remembered Juvie on it, not Sack Chaser so much, but it was a couple of his family members that had RIP Juvie shirts and stuff like that that they wore. You just didn't see them, but they wore them in the courtroom, and they wore them to make sure that Melly saw it too. They was like really sitting there with the shirts on. So
was the jury able to see that as well?
They could see them, but I mean, they could see them, but would they pay attention to what people in the gallery are wearing? Is what I would be wondering.
Yeah.
Then actually, no, they didn't see him. Or if they did, they didn't see him, because the way it's set up, everybody's already sitting down, or everybody's standing up when the jury comes in, but they take their seat and we all sit down. So I mean, if they look, they got a glance, and that was it. Yeah. Not enough to be like, oh snap, look at that shirt over there.
Do you think that they will drop death penalty this time?
No, I think the prosecution is gonna see this all the way through. Like, nah, forget that. Y'all finna get this. Y'all finna get this work.
I wish that they would drop death penalty. I don't like this being a death penalty case. But
they gave the option of manslaughter, and they still came to a unanimous, or couldn't come to a unanimous decision. So
yeah. But I get that though, because for it to be manslaughter, it would be, for this one, I know they give them the option because it's kind of under the umbrella, but it wouldn't be a manslaughter case unless it was based on emotion instead of fact, because it wasn't, it's not like he accidentally shot both of them. His whole thing was that he wasn't even there. But that was one of the conversations we had too. Do you think that some of the jurors would have gone for manslaughter, even though it makes zero sense, just because they didn't want to convict for death penalty? I think especially with him being so young, I think that, I don't want this. I don't like this being a death penalty case, but I'm not a fan of that.
Well, if they gave him life in prison, he would get out by a little bit before he turns 50. So
I thought they weren't giving him the option of parole.
No, I said he would still do the 30 years, but he would be under 50. He's only 23 right now. So if they give him 30 years or life in prison, like they say, 30 years, he'll come out and he'll be like around 47.
But I thought they weren't giving him. Are you talking about for
If they
manslaughter?
did, if they gave him life in prison, yeah, for like manslaughter or whatever, if they gave him
Yeah,
life, he would
I
still get
got you.
out like 47. So
Yeah,
he still have a lot of life to live, I guess.
yeah. Do you think the defense will have their own cell phone expert?
Yes, yes, I think so. This time, yes, going around
Yeah,
because I mean they tried to get Special Agent Collins, but obviously he was busy. So I
yeah,
know that's something that they'll probably try and bring in themselves to know what to bring. I mean, being that they went through it this time and they weren't prepared for it.
yeah. Let's see. Will it be the same judge and defense attorneys for the retrial? I realize it will be the same prosecution. Yeah, it's all the same.
That's the courtroom that they was that this trial was designated to. So that's Judge Murphy's courtroom, and the prosecution is the one Bradley and Smith are the ones that are elected they're elected prosecutors. So the only thing that can change is the defense, and I think the prosecution can change if the state feels, but I think they're just gonna see it through.
All right. I think that if the court threw out some of that evidence and people seen it on social media, could that be a defense talking about the jury?
I mean, if the jury was watching social media, but obviously they're not supposed to. I mean, that's literally one of the rules of being on jury, so or for jury duty. So not to talk about it, not to look up, not to do any of that stuff about that pertains to the case. Now, obviously, we can't control people as far as what they do with their phones or what they do with their electronic devices or social media. So, like you said, somebody was in there with a Apple Watch and the jury told, and then when they came in there and was like, "Hey, who has an Apple Watch? Raise your hands, everybody. Let's see." And everybody just went like this, and the judge just believed them and was like, "Okay, like let's go on." Like obviously nobody has it.
Yeah. All right, let's see. I I don't understand why they didn't try harder to investigate real potential drive-by suspects. May sound ignorant to some, but maybe that ignorant person has insight. Um, it it was not a drive-by, which is it was not a drive-by. Let's see. Uh, death. Oh yeah, death. Yeah, we're getting a lot of comments about the death penalty stuff. I wonder if. Okay. Oh, oops. I wonder if prosecution will alter their approach to the witness and jury. Yeah. What changes do you think that they're going to make?
Gosh, I don't know. As far as witnesses, like obviously they're gonna probably not have like a firearm expert or a cell phone data expert or something like that. But as far as the jury, I don't know. It's just different as far as I think they'll take a different approach for sure, but I don't know. I plan on going to the jury selection part, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. One thing that I think the the gang stuff, I don't think that they ever tied in all of the gang stuff enough for it to have made a difference on anything. And that was such a exhausting part of having to listen to everything.
Yeah,
Um and there was nothing that we saw. Okay, yeah, we see that he has, ties to it. But as far as that becoming part of like the motive or anything like that, I don't think that we ever saw any of that. So I would think that that would be something that there was less time spent on, because it seemed like a lot of dragging things out, but for not a lot of effect on anything. I think anyway. The
correct.
gang stuff didn't change. It didn't have anything to do with the case to me. Let's see. Virginia, thank you for the super chat. She says, Melly, guilty by association, life without parole. Let's see. Casey says, I won't be watching. We have a lot of people that are like, I ain't going through all that again. I think everybody has PTSD from sidebars.
People, you know what? I've heard a lot of people say that, but I feel like that first day I think people will be like reinvested on the first day based on what content comes out as far as what the defense opening statement was, or opening argument, and what the prosecution's opening argument was. So, and like if people like Boosie or somebody or something like that shows up and surprised, like, yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's see. I think there are just parts of it that became more of a show and less of a, search for justice for 2 lives that were lost. That part, can get frustrating when we want to advocate for victims and stuff. That part gets, but I mean, I guess that's what you get for a high profile trial. So, let's see. I think we talked about this one. Do you think that they will try to obtain the jury from a different county? We kind of went over that one earlier. Let's see.
I mean, they can try, but no.
I wonder if the defense is going to get someone to recreate the crime scene to try to prove a drive-by. It was not a drive-by, y'all. It was not a drive-by.
The only way they could do that is they plan on really in the retrial, just really plan on burying Borland. So
yeah. If y'all missed, I mean, the shots were straight on. There was no tear in the middle. They were straight. The back door was open.
All that stuff will be resubmitted and re-argued. So
yeah. It was not a drive-by. All right, let's see. Do you think Melly was just angry for the actions that Sack Chaser did? Money, irritable?
I really don't know what would be the reason that he would want to. I mean, other than money, yes, that's correct. But I don't know any particular reason that night that he was just like, all right, I'm deciding this night that I'm going to kill these 2. So if that's what allegedly happened.
Gotcha. Let's see. I told you everybody has sidebar PTSD. Susan says, what is the motive? Do you have any ideas about the motive?
The only thing I can think of outside of the evidence and information that they showed that they didn't show on live streams and anything like that, it would just have to be greed. Or money. It would have to be they were arguing over money. I don't think the gang stuff had anything to do with it, because I don't know any gangs that would be like, hey, this is part of one of your initiations is to kill your 2 best friends. So yeah, nah. I think the only thing that would come into this is money. It would have to be money at the end of the day.
Do you think that let me phrase it this way. Tell me your thoughts on the whole situation between Jamie and Sack. Like, what are your thoughts on like their beef? It was interesting seeing, Melly being caught in the middle of it. And then of course seeing the video from from her where she was coming after him pretty hard. What are your thoughts on all that?
Well, from the text
and why do you think that even started?
I mean, from the text messages that was read during trial, it was between Melly's mom and Sack Chaser's mom at first. And then I guess either Sack Chaser was just taking up for his mom and Melly just got caught in the middle of it. Because even Melly would be like, yo, leave him alone. And she would be like, no, his mom disrespected me, or this, that, and the third. So it made it seem like it was just something that happened between both of their moms first that bled out into affecting the kids' relationships.
Gotcha. All right. Question. Do you think no witness for the defense because nobody wanted to testify? Dr. Kinsey wouldn't have any part. Dr. Kinsey was one of the experts that we watched in the Murdoch trial. I don't know if you watched that one, but
yeah.
Do you think that they had trouble getting witnesses?
No. As far as the prosecution, no. I mean, obviously, they showed that they were willing to use necessary any type of necessary actions to make sure that these people testified. They was like, okay, if you don't testify, we're just going to send you to jail. If you don't testify, we're going to deport you. If you don't testify, we're going to subpoena your mother or something like that to make sure. Like, so yeah, they made as far as the defense, I mean, they came with one witness, so I don't think they had trouble finding witnesses at all. So
well, I'm confused too because they had on their witness list, they had experts that they ended up not calling. They had a trajectory expert and they had cell phone expert, and they had people on their list that they ended up not calling.
They just, I don't know. They just was like, hey, you know what? We cool with this one witness. Let's just use AD and tell him that he got out the car and he got in the car with them. So
yeah. Let's see. Charlie, I wasn't talking to you when I said that. When I said that a minute ago. We love you too. Let's see. Virginia says the motive was money, the fight with Sack, the picture Sack sent his girlfriend. Without the other two, he didn't have to split. That was something that we've heard too about the rumors about the picture that Sack sent to Mariah.
right.
I've never seen it. I don't know. Like, I'm very particular about if there's just something I didn't verify. So I don't know anything other than rumor. Do you know anything about all that?
It was a lot of pictures they tried to show in court that they couldn't.
Yeah. Well, I had heard the one that they're talking about that Sack had sent. I guess Sack and Mariah were allegedly sending stuff to each other or something, and people were talking about how that could be part of the.
Well, you got to remember that even though Sack was 21 when this happened, or when he passed away, he was 21. Melly was 19 or 18. Yeah, 18, I think, when this happened. So you got to remember Mariah and all these other people, Mariah, Borland's sister, and all that at this time were minors. They were underage. So all these pictures and stuff that they got on there and all that is not going to be shown because it's involving a minor.
Yeah. That was something that everybody, when they said something about having pictures on, of minors on there, we were all like, that's uncomfortable. But I mean, I know they were young, but okay. So, Boom, did Track interact with both families in the courtroom?
No, just he sat over there and nothing happened, but just he just would talk to Melly's side afterwards, and then he just found a seat next to her or behind his mom afterwards. So nah, he didn't interact. I mean, what are they gonna do though? It's a courtroom. It's like 6 sheriffs in the back. Like you can't 6 big sheriffs at that. Like these dudes are swole. Like these ain't no
Yeah.
you try anything in there, they're gonna hem you up so fast and get you up out of there. So
Felicia, do you think Felicia is still wearing an ankle monitor? And also, do you think the prosecution will call her back to the stand? You think they'll try again?
yep. They could, but I mean, I don't know if they necessarily got to re-subpoena them, or I'm guessing they would, being that's it would be a whole new case. So I guess they got to do all that. They got to re-subpoena these people. The only problem is people are easier to find now. Like Fredo is on tour, so they could just go get him from wherever tour stop he's going to be at, and they could literally subpoena him on stage. Like Felicia Holmes, she can't go anywhere. They know she in Cocoa Beach. All right, bet. Let's take a drive to Cocoa Beach and get her subpoena. And now you can even Zoom subpoena people now. So I don't know how that works, but they gonna figure it out. So yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. Let's see. Do you think Travion Glass's convictions made some jurors not believe him?
I wouldn't think so, because they asked to hear his testimony again. So I think they believed him more than AD.
Yeah, I do too. I believed him more than AD because I mean, this is there. all of the data only supports one of those stories. If you're going to believe AD or Travion, all of the data only supports one of those stories. So his is the one that was believable.
Right.
Like I said, I don't trust people, but I trust data. Let's see. The people the prosecution threatened were people who provided a statement, then were scared to testify at the trial. So what are your thoughts on, do you think that they went too far with, because I know that that's, typical police stuff to, tell people if you lie, you could, we'll throw you under the jail, whatever. Do you think that they went too far with this?
No, not at all. I've seen plenty of different tactics being used as far as getting people to cooperate. So no, I'm not surprised. I don't think did they go too far? I don't think so. Obviously it only affected their case in the long run. Like the defense used that. They were like, okay, yeah, it's cool. Like you got these people to testify, but you literally threatened them with taking away their life to get them to do it. So what kind of tactic is that? What type of animosity do you have towards this kid? You just want to get a guilty verdict. You don't really care if this kid really did it or not. So yeah, just based on their proof.
I think that there was a lot of talk about that, and a lot of the opinions on that seem to be based on which side people were leaning on. Because it's funny because the people who were pro defense were like, how dare he do that, and the people who were either neutral or like pro prosecution were more like, that's how many times have we seen that? That's something that's very common, I guess, for that. So I didn't think it was that big of a deal. It wasn't surprising to me, but there were some people that were like, outraged at him threatening people and deporting Track and whatnot. Track.
We got a last question. What's a good one?
Let's see. Some of these we've asked. What is there anything that you
No, I really just thank everybody for their support, and for their great feedback that I got when I asked for a performance review at the end of the trial after it was all said and done. So yeah, I appreciate that, and Brandi for all her help and making me obviously creating this whole trial daddy. And I didn't think that was gonna go the way it did and whatnot, but yeah, and then just thanks to you for being so supportive and helpful when needed.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. I know that as time has gone by, you and I have not seen some things the same. So, but that's what I like. I like having, opposing viewpoints on different things because, I like hearing other.
They got one. They said, have you spoken to Borland and what was his energy after finding out a mistrial? Yes. And pretty much he was optimistic. He knew what happens with this whole mistrial thing. So he knows obviously he up next. So he not really excited or anything. He's more like, you guys, he posted on Twitter, he said, the mind games don't work on me. He knows okay, just because it's a mistrial don't mean this is over. Don't get it twisted. So
yeah, I gotcha. All right. Well, and we have one more. What's next? Lexi, first of all, congratulations, Lexi, on 2 months with us. Happy anniversary with us. And Lexi wants to know what's next for you. What's the next thing you're doing right now?
More trials. I'm gonna stick it out for this one and for Borland and for Thug and any other hip hop trial that's going on. And I'm gonna get back to my regular stuff as far as writing for the Dallas Observer. And it's actually a couple of places that hit me up about writing stuff about the YNW Melly trial too that I'm working on. So I'm gonna get all that.
Oh, that's cool.
Get all that going too. So yep.
Gotcha. We will, I'm sure we'll, as much as I keep saying,
more interviews with 13th juror.
Yes. See, and they love the collab. They love our collab.
Right.
You'll have to come back. I keep saying, as much as I keep saying, like, oh, I'm not going to do, this if it goes back to trial, or if I do, it's going to be members only, whatever. I know I'm going to end up getting suckered back into it. So, so we'll see. But
definitely gonna love your reactions.
Oh yeah, I've got to, like, I'm just going to drink heavily during that time. That's what I'll have to do to get through it. Like, I'll be living off of like dry shampoo, anxiety medication, and wine. So it's fine. We'll get through it. And Kaylin says, Dallas is proud of you, Boom. Very professional.
Already.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. I guess we will keep up with you. Are you going to be there Friday for the hearing? Or did they let anybody there for the hearing?
They can't stop anybody, I guess, if they really made it like that. But yeah.
Are you going to go for the hearing Friday? Yeah. We will be watching. We will be seeing what happens. So,
all right, for sure.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us, and we will catch up with you on Friday to see what's next and see what the plan is. All right, y'all. Thank you for reporting to jury duty. We will see y'all next time.
All right.